So this is episode 6, and I am referring to it as the Mike and Mike Show because I've got a good buddy of mine here that we have resonated over the techie stuff when it comes to filming. If I had like a dirty little secret, my dirty little secret would be that like I want to produce films at some point. Not that I'll maybe ever do that, but it's something that I get a lot of cup filling from, because I like when a video looks good. I like when audio looks good. And of course, as you can see from the podcast studio, I've spent way more money on it than I care to divulge. But Mike, introduce yourself. Tell me what you do, and tell our listeners kind of a little bit about yourself and what got you into the industry of film and advertising and those kind of things.
Yeah. So also Mike, I'm Mike. I guess I'll do Michael. So you're Mike, I'm Michael. Play that a little bit difference here, but yeah, I'm part of 963 Film Group. I was one of the founders of it, basically a video production company, or we consider ourselves a marketing company with a medium in film. So our specialty is like the photography, the videography, but we really try and focus on the marketing aspect. We've been doing this for just about 3 years now this month. So my background, I started actually as a real estate agent, did that first for like 4 years, kind of did my own photo and video for my listings and marketing as I was doing that, and then just got to a point where I wanted to pull full-time into this. So business partner of mine, other founder, Kyle Massey, he was kind of doing his own thing too, and we decided there's too many people just making videos to make videos, or charging or just selling videos to sell a video. We've told people no before, like it doesn't matter if you pay $50 for a video or $5,000 for a video. If you're not getting value out of it, if you're not getting, the goal you're wanting out of it, it doesn't matter. So we kind of started this because we wanted to like change that. We wanted to be a company that just focuses on having multiple people in different specialties, but also kind of like helping put knowledge out there, helping educate people, helping people get work that's actually going to get them somewhere. And doing things like this too. I love just kind of sharing knowledge, putting that out there. So in general, because not everybody has to have a fancy video. Like, great if you need something our expertise fits in, but there's so much, especially in this realm, like real estate, mortgage industry, like personal finance, anything like that. You can be doing so much with just your own content. Like a cell phone gets you so far nowadays. Yeah.
You don't have to have a studio. Like
you don't have to have a studio. This is great. It helps to a certain degree, but I mean, $50 lapel mic you clip into your phone, like you can get a long way.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you definitely can. And it's something that early on, like I have a perfectionist bone in my body. I mean, we were messing with the cameras before this because I noticed that the guest was always grainy, but you definitely can. When it comes to being a realtor or being a loan officer or really anybody in sales, I think I wish I would see more people leaning into it in like the car industry too, because I've got friends in the car industry that have leaned into it and they absolutely crush it. I mean, they just these little, hey, let me show you this new vehicle we just got on the lot and some of these things. So I think people silo themselves into like, well, I do solar sales. So like, what could I do videos about? Like it's just so boring. Or I do roof sales. What could I do videos about? I think it pertains to all sales in general. And I think the producing of like a 60-second commercial and then putting it on the local channel, like there's place for that. But I think that money is much more well spent in the medium of like, let me do some shorts. Let me have 963 come out and just record my day and see what short form content that I can get out of it and some of that kind of stuff. And I think that that's going to have a much bigger brand impact than producing some like, oh, come to me, I'll give you a new roof, you know? And it's just it's so overplayed at this point. And I know our generations, like when we see stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily create brand credibility for us. So I think that the more people, whether you're boomer or whatever, like the more people that can understand from an advertising standpoint that what creates brand credibility for the people that are actually spending dollars right now is really what matters. And a lot of people, like you can jump on a podcast and just riff, and I can jump on a podcast and just riff, and a lot of people can't, but their authentic self would actually get them buyers, and they just don't understand that, know? So like, talk to me about that. Like when you were an agent and you were doing your own content, what was the reaction to that content from the general public or from other agents? Was it like, hey, who's doing your content? And then it led into, well, maybe I should just do this full time because so many people are asking about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, funny enough, I actually struggled with a lot of the same things I hear resistance from other agents from, as I was like the perfectionist too. Like, oh, I got to look right. I got to have the right camera first before I'm able to do it. I got to have the right setup. I have to know enough what I'm talking about, and yada, yada, have all these things. When at the end of the day, it's just make content. And when I started doing that and started doing that for other people, it started just paying off immediately. I think the biggest thing that people need to get, and I hear this from so many people, is, well, I don't know how to talk on camera, or I don't like the way I look, or, people are going to, when is the first time, have you ever done a deal with someone that hasn't met you in person or hasn't talked to you on the phone?
Right.
No, you haven't. So your clients are going to know what you look like. Your clients are going to know what you sound like. You can have those conversations with them and be confident. Yeah, it's a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to do that to a phone or a camera or a videographer, whichever. But I mean, that's what you're doing. When you meet someone in person, you are stuck driving to that place, meeting that person, having that conversation, but you're building rapport. You're showing your professionality. You're showing, yourself and connecting to that client in a way that makes them trust you and want to use you. So why would you not want to do that, one time to reach 10, 20, 100 people, 1,000 people versus having to do a one-on-one basis?
Yeah. So advice-wise for agents or for somebody in sales that may not have the budget right now to go and hire a company to get content out there. Like some of the advice that I give to agents when they ask me that question is like, hey, just set up your phone and record one of your conversations with a new prospect. Like you're cold calling a buyer that has asked for more information from you. Like just set up a tripod and record that conversation. Yeah. You the power of like the little snippets that you could get out of that would be huge. And then you add AI to it now where you take the transcript and upload that to a trained bot that now understands who you are and then can go post long form written content for you, so there's all kinds of advice, but what would your advice be on that front to start out of another idea? Like what would be something else that you would probably add to that?
I mean, I think a good way to start it, especially if you are nervous to be in front of a camera, is something you actually brought up in one of the earlier episodes. Just film yourself. Even if it's not going anywhere yet, even if you're just doing for accountability to like train yourself and how to talk to clients, like you can be filming that. And then just that will get you used to, okay, there's a camera there. Yeah. So you can start with that, right? And then maybe you start getting the point, oh, that was a really good call. I made that transaction. Or, oh, that was a good call. I helped that person answer that problem that they didn't even know they had. Great. Like, doesn't matter if it doesn't look the best. Like, maybe like I said, get a $50, $25 microphone to plug in so you have some kind of audio. Because people forgive bad video, but they won't forgive bad audio.
Yeah, they will not.
But yeah, just doing simple things like that. And if you think you're comfortable enough to try it, the good thing is you don't have to do it live like we're doing right now. You can sit there, record, and do 100 takes if it needs to get the one right. And then, great, post it out. Like once you get that first one done, you'll find it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think more conversational stuff, I think people lose sight of that, like what we're doing here. Yeah. I get so much short-form content from this. I get so much long-form written content because I take all of it and upload it into to my AI assistant. But like I think a lot of people forget the fact that like when you're in your element, we all have this. You make sales on different things. I make sales on different things. And we'll all have this moment where we leave a conversation. It's like, damn, that was a good one. Holy moly, that was a good one. So it could be not video. It could be you record all of your phone calls and then get transcriptions of those phone calls, whatever. But you could use that. You could use that to voice over some video that ultimately is just like pictures flowing.
Stock footage, exactly.
Yeah, stock footage. And then you have like this highly impactful 60-second video that you can post to TikTok or you can post to Instagram Reels or whatever. And I think it's just thinking outside the box.
Yeah. I mean, agents, go have a conversation with your preferred mortgage lender. Go have a conversation with the closing attorneys you work to. There's so many, if you know someone that does staging for houses, just reach out to a few local businesses and you can find people to have conversations with. I mean, even if you're not paying someone, stick a phone up and get some good audio and bam, you could use that and then repurpose it for a long time. I mean, our company, we started 3 years ago. We tried doing a podcast to start out with, and it's hard, as you've learned, to keep up with consistency with a podcast.
Super difficult.
But we still get people to this day being like, "Hey, I saw that clip of you guys on the podcast you did a few years ago. Like, loved it." I mean, it's the conversations, it's the just getting to know someone and being authentic.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Like, you'll see a lot of our videos. I mean, if it's more like ad style directed at someone, we'll have someone look at the camera, but most of our videos, you don't see anybody looking at a camera.
Yeah,
because we don't need that. We don't need scripted. People don't want that anymore.
No.
They want to. There's so much flooded like options in any industry right now. So with sales, like we also talked about, doesn't matter what kind of sales if you're in roofing, if you're in solar, like how many options do we have nowadays?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what's going to stand out? The typical ad of them doing the work when there's 100 companies do professional work, or the 2 people that you feel like you can trust them with your business and with your money. So it's all about building that rapport and building trust. And for that, you just got to be authentic.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't understand with the emergence of AI, how authenticism will cut right through all of, for lack of a better term, all of the bullshit, like the authenticism will cut right through it, because you're going to see, like, there's all kinds of things out there. There's Notebook LM that will create a little podcast. There's 11 Labs that creates voices. There's HeyGen that will essentially clone you and push you out there. So there's all of these different things out there that the general person will be able to look at that and go, there's something off about that. There's something a little bit different about, like, he moved his hand this way when he wasn't actually making a point. So it's clearly AI and it's taking over. I think more and more people will be able to see that over the next 4 to 5 years. I think it's very new right now. So like I could put content out like that and they wouldn't know the difference. But I think 4 or 5 years from now, especially the younger generation, my kids and some of these other, like they will have such an eye for it to be able to be like, nah, that's not real content. And I think that's where the authentic piece is, and also the long lasting piece of it. Like the reason why I podcast is because if I died tomorrow, like my kids would be able to listen to the last 5 episodes and have dad forever. It's a selfish thing for me. And I plan on doing it the rest of my life for that reason. So like 30 years from now, if I've produced 10,000 episodes, my kids will be able to see a glimpse of dad growing up from 30 years old to 50 years old, So it goes a little deeper than that, but also like your clients can see how you mature. So like these agents that, I'm scared of video, or I'm scared of audio, I'm scared of this. Sometimes failing and putting it out there will get you more business than just trying to seem like you're perfect all the time. The behind the scenes stuff plays so well right now. So they can see that, like, once they see the finished product, which gets them to invest in you, they'll see that finished product and go, oh yeah, they also posted the behind the scenes bloopers, which were fantastic. Yeah. And I think people lose that,
Yeah. There's just so much about just, again, being authentic, being yourself, and then getting that real content. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you're saying, it's a lot of times it actually is better if it's not.
It's never perfect.
I mean, we're humans, right? Who is perfect among us?
Yeah.
Like, not me. So seeing that, and I think, again, like building trust, would you rather trust the person that they only post the things they're doing right?
Yeah.
Would you rather hear, hey, I went out, I didn't get this listing, but I was able to help this person do this, such and such. Or maybe you failed, you didn't make the right decision here, but you will fix it and get them an even better, deal, whichever. I mean, people want to hear your failures too, and how you got past that, how you did that to get better, because that just has realism. Like, people screw up, we make mistakes. Yeah. So being honest and real about that, and as well as like your learning process, like not only will help people grow with you, but I mean, again, you're feeling more real. It doesn't feel scripted.
Yeah.
So.
And for me, like going through, and I've shared all of my struggles with podcasting and like not staying consistent. It started out real raw relevant with a buddy of mine. Didn't stay consistent with that. Then it became Legendary Realtors, and there's just all these different things. So when we launched Legendary Mortgage, I was like, all right, I'm going to launch Legendary Project, because the project has the foundation behind it and all these different things. But now, like, because it's only one brand, like inherently that's going to hold me more accountable to making sure that I do do the content. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be something that's well scripted or any of that. It just has to be consistent. So, so speak to that, because I know that that was something that you touched on at the beginning, is it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be consistent. Yeah. So for anybody in sales, like you don't have to have all this fancy equipment. Like, what would be your advice to start being consistent with it? Like how often should they post? How often should they do a video versus long form? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it really depends. It's like specifically how much kind of depends a little bit on the trends. I mean, things go up and down. It used to be you want to post 5 times a day. Now the algorithms kind of get away from that. You kind of want maybe once or twice a day. But I think the general thing is just consistency. Like, don't go a month without posting. Don't even probably go a week without posting something. I mean, a lot of what we do too, and the biggest thing is learning how to do that the right way, or batch making stuff. A lot of the times we do social media content, we're not filming for 30 days out of the month to get someone content. Where usually you can go, when we do it, we like to go 2 to 4 hours. And we can get enough content that we can then push out, and you can mix and match that, different voiceovers, different speaking parts, maybe do one long thing like a podcast. I mean, you can easily take a few hours a month and turn that into 15, 20 pieces of content. Yeah. And you're done for the month. And there's so many tools to help with that. I mean, you can go to Facebook Business Suite and, schedule post out for a month through Facebook, Instagram, all that. There's apps and everything. You can do that with TikTok or, Twitter, X, whichever. So there's so many ways to go about it. So don't think you have to be making content every day. But if you're not prioritizing at least one day a month to make some kind of content you can, use for that month, then you're missing out on something. Because if you just do it, sporadically, it's not going to do you any good. And we've straight up told people that too. Like, we'll go and, they want this big brand message. They want to be flashy. They want to do all these cool camera angles and tricks and things. And okay, great, but what after that? Because if you're just going to post it once to Facebook, like, it doesn't. I started with this before we got in the podcast here. It doesn't matter if you spend $50 or $5,000 for a video. If you don't know how to use it properly, like, we'd rather not film it, because you're just going to be not getting the results you want.
Yeah, which is a culture hit to you guys too. I mean, like a brand hit. You guys want to put out the best content possible, and I've seen that. Like, you guys put out fantastic content, but one of the greatest pieces of advice that I heard you give was reach out to that title company, reach out to an inspector that you typically have conversations with, and just have a conversation with them on Zoom and record it, and then feed that thing into like Opus, and have that thing create small little clips. And that can be the first start to somebody getting their brand out there, and having that consistency. I think people try to, you and I being in it, like, we know that it's not super complicated, but I think people just way overcomplicate it.
Yeah, they do. I think a lot of people get intimidated by it. And again, like, part of that's thinking you need to have all the gear and everything, which you don't. If you do have a budget to do that, great. It might help you get there a little bit quicker. But, and again, something with us, like, we try and coach people on how to use it right. Everything we sell, we have a, we call it distribution consultation after. So we're not just going to, like, here you go, have fun, post on Facebook, see what happens.
Take your video,
we want to sit down and show you how to use it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, once you learn how to do that, you can do it with any kind of content. And, again, your first stuff is also, that's another thing. Your first stuff's not going to be good.
No.
It doesn't matter who you are. Like, my first stuff wasn't good, right?
Dude, so. That's so funny, because, like, I'll have it pop up in my memories now of, like, me, like, in this like, gray walled with like a couple of pictures behind me with like a lapel mic on and a suit on, and I'm like, who the heck is that guy? But it's cool because, and you reference this about another podcast that we had, like, the eye in the sky never lies. And if you'll do enough of this stuff, you'll just inherently get better at talking on the phone. So it's going to make you better when you're cold calling. If you're just slapping that phone and cold calling all day as a real estate agent, or as a mortgage guy, or as a car sales guy, you will get better if you do video. Like, there's no doubt about it, because you'll look at that video and go, I really didn't know what engine was in that car. I had no idea what the hell I was talking about. I didn't know there was 4 bathrooms in that listing. Like, and I had to figure it out on the run. Like, so it's ultimately going to make you better on the fly, which is what sales is. People are going to hit you with objections, and you're going to have to be like, pivot. All right, here
Yep.
you go, and hit them with it. And I think that film does that a lot. And improv, and I would love to be able to put my whole team through an improv class because it would just make them so much better at sales. And I think that you would agree. Like you throw somebody in front of a camera, like and tell them to improv, they either rise to the occasion or they turn into a bowl of mush.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And the good thing is though, with the right, guidance and the right amount of like practice, like even those people can get up, make fantastic videos, and I get a mix of them. Some people are just naturally, I want to say naturally good at it, but not even necessarily that, because the best people I've worked with that have like maybe a natural sense just have a better like memory as far as keeping up with all the points they want to talk about in their head and need less takes. But anybody I've worked with, doesn't matter how good they are in video, every single one of them got that way because they kept doing it.
Yeah.
So it's, again, just get started. Like, and same thing like you're saying, like your first cold call, like who had a good first cold call?
Nobody.
Exactly. What do you do? And you got to be you got to be continuous with it. You got to be like strategic with it too. You can't if you just do it without looking back on what you were doing and how you can improve, like you're not going to get better. And it's the same thing, cold calling, video, writing contracts, learning the mortgage terms. Like you're not going to learn that stuff unless you just continuously do it and then look back on what you could have done better.
Yeah. And what I think a lot of people will get sideways about is they won't listen or watch their content back. I can't listen to myself speak or sing or whatever. Like I love my wife to death. Love her to death. She's a fantastic singer. Mm-hmm. Every time I've ever recorded her singing, I can't get her to listen back to it because all of us are our own worst critic. But the reality of it is like one of the best songs that she sings is At Last by Etta James. Fantastic at it. If I have her listen back to it, there's going to be parts where she hears it and goes, oh, I could have been a little better in that part, which is fine. But to not listen back to what we produce, if you do start doing videos, I think it's crazy. I listen back to every podcast. It's not because I like to hear myself speak. It's the exact opposite. I want to hear what trips me up. I want to hear what issues that I have about certain topics, because somebody that I hold a lot of respect for, which is Joe Rogan, because of his just innate ability to interview people, is insane to me. Like he's just so good at it. And the flow of an interview, like I do study that stuff, and hopefully it shows from the podcast.
I mean, and guess what? What podcast episode is Joe Rogan on now? It's not like he's doing this his first time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and for me, like you have to watch the film back. I come from a sports background, so like every single time I would do something, I would watch the film of it and go, well, what the heck did you do there? You threw a pick six and then you didn't even try to go tackle the guy. What's wrong with you? So there's all these different points where you can make yourself better, and there's nothing wrong with being your own worst critic. But what's wrong with it is if you go, that was trash, I'm never doing that again.
There's a difference between being self-analytical and then just critiquing yourself and like ignoring
into
that.
Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a psychological thing. No one likes the sound. Like everyone's going to think the sound of their own voice sounds worse than it does. And everyone's going to think they look, physically worse than they do.
Yeah.
I don't like my voice either, but I'm like, I know I have to get content out there, and I know I have to be consistent with it. And I mean, I'm working on starting a YouTube channel this year, and it's just gear related stuff for other camera people. I'm probably not gonna do anything crazy with it, but I wanted to start getting better at this too. Cause if I'm gonna be coaching people on how to talk to a camera, how to be comfortable in front of it, I need to learn that process better myself. And so again, like anything we're talking about, it's consistency there. So
yeah. And I think that, I mean, any business, it really all comes down to what you're willing to put into it and the consistency that you're willing to put into it. And I think a lot of people just fall short of that in the sense that they don't really, it's not really their fault in the sense that they don't know what it takes to really get good at it. They just try it one time. They got 4 likes on their social media and like 100 views, and they're like, I'm never doing video again. That didn't do anything for me. Coming from my place where even though I've not been consistent with the video aspect or the podcast aspect, I have grown a following on Facebook, which is if you look at the age demographic of the buyers that are in my geographic location, Facebook is it. You know, like Facebook is the place that those people hang out. And I have been able to grow a following on that in a big way without posting a ton of videos, just by doing long form content and posting my thoughts and being authentic and being real about what I've got going on in my life. And if I think I would be much further along if I also put that in video format too. Like, hey, I'm struggling today, guys. You know, like I'm having a real bad day. And to be honest with you, like coming into this podcast, I've had a terrible day, but it's ultimately led me to a place to where like I can speak to somebody that is going to give me wisdom, and I'm going to take the time to do that, you know? And I think people lose sight of the fact that like we're not as important as we think we are. And when you're having a bad day, still do the content and tell people that your day's not going well, and show them how they pull themselves out of that, you know? And I think people lose sight of that, you know?
Agreed. You know, it's not easy every day. Like find an accountability partner, find someone to help you with it, you know, talk to people that you have like on Facebook and Instagram. Like people understand, we're people. Like again, the authenticism we're talking about. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all had bad days, but like same with working out, having kids, like, you know, doing anything with a career. Like it's sometimes you just got to get up and do the thing, and it sucks sometimes, but the consistency to keep on doing it's going to get you the right way. Another thing I want to touch on too, because you had made a good point about how, okay, a lot of your target demographic is Facebook. I think that's a huge thing that people miss, is they don't consider what demographic they're going off of, or they have such a wide range. They don't have any specialty. They don't know their, you know, client avatar of who they want to be talking to. And so they just blindly post something out and it doesn't work. Well, first off, you know, if you're just doing it once, it's never going to work no matter who you're targeting. Yeah. But also, different things work for different people. I mean, you have the widescreen, you know, horizontal Facebook, YouTube, that does work for like the slightly older demographic. You got like younger people or people with money that don't have much time. Maybe it's something like Twitter or Instagram. Yeah. I mean, if you look, one crazy stat I was looking at the other day. So across the country, just blanket luxury houses, anything 750 or over, there was 3 times as many deals that closed from Instagram videos than did from Zillow listings.
Oh, wow.
So the people out there spending $5,000 a month on Zillow being like, why isn't this working? Well, what's your target demographic? Who you doing the right stuff? And I think another thing too is consistency with all this stuff is really important. And there's a lot of overwhelming options. I mean, I think especially from being in the world of real estate, there was always a lot of pressure from a lot of people to do different things. You got to do mailers, you got to door knock, you got to cold call, you got to do open houses.
Could you imagine, you said mailers, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but could you imagine sending out one mailer and going,
it didn't work.
Well, shit, that didn't work. You know, like
I sent it to one house, they didn't buy.
That would be insane to think that would be a realistic expectation. And that's what people do with video. Yeah. People do that with video. They go, all right, I put one video out and it didn't happen. Now, it's a little different in the sense that like you're putting it out and hoping many people see it. Yeah. But the reality is like it would be like sending out a mailer to 10 people. And because you haven't because you haven't been social on social media and actually interacting with the people that like and comment on your stuff, or commenting and liking other people's stuff, because you haven't been social, there might be 10 people that see it. And those 10 people actually interact with it, but you don't get anything from it. It'd be the same thing as sending out a mailer to 10 people and going, well, shoot, I'm never going to send out a mailer again. That was terrible. No, you've got to send out a mailer to 10,000 to get any side.
And not just once, like pick a, you know, again, be strategic about it. Don't just send it out to 10,000 people, you know, blanket across your, what's your target demographic? Do you have a certain community you're trying to farm? Like find that first, but also don't do it once. If people see a mailer once, okay, maybe they'll remember your face from a billboard or something, but they're most likely going to toss it. If they start getting 4 or 5, like not everybody's ready to buy or sell at time. Not everybody's ready to refinance at a certain time, but maybe 3 years later, they've gotten 8 or 10 of those over the years. And you're like, you know what? I remember that guy's face and I think I have one somewhere. So it's consistency.
Yeah. It's that I call it omnipresence. Like you want to get to a place to where you have some sort of omnipresence with your buyer demographic. And yeah, have we done mailers in the past? Yes, we've done them. That's not necessarily our demographic unless we're going after reverse mortgages. We will do mailers for reverse. But when you think about the cost of acquiring a customer, which I bet if you ask that question to 99% of the salespeople that you ever come into contact with, they would have no idea how to answer it. They would have no clue what it costs them to acquire a customer. And I think doing video and doing content is the lowest cost acquisition that you could ever do. I mean, it's crazy how low the acquisition cost is on it, especially if you're doing the content yourself. Like, and it could be terrible content, but somebody will reciprocate that and go, oh, like that's the person I want to buy from, you know?
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing is, as far as all the other ways to market, I mean, you know, door knocking, mailers, they all take like a considerable amount of time consistently, where video you can, again, just do once a month and make multiple pieces. But the other thing is, with the rest of them, you can kind of pick one and make it work. If you get really good at cold calling, you can make a great business out of just that. You get really good at doing open houses, you can make a business with just that. But video kind of works no matter which of those you're doing, because no matter what else you're doing, stick a camera up there and you can get some footage that you can make 10 posts out of, and then probably get you more clients, a base you'll build up from that. I mean,
and it could be a webcam, and I tell a lot of agents this all the time, is like, just set up your webcam and record your entire day. If you're cold calling all day, record your entire day. Feed that into Opus and let it do its thing.
It'll find the 5% that's good, and maybe that's 5 posts you didn't have before.
Exactly. And I think that people lose sight of that with some of the tools that are out there today and how easy it is to get content. Like, yes, I actually believe in well-produced content. I want well-produced content for the majority of my stuff because I'm in a different stage of my career right now.
Agreed.
I'm in a place where my plan is to be speaking on stages and investing into people and giving a lot of insight to people. And the one-to-many on that side, I need a better produced content to do that. But for the average realtor that's going to sell 10 homes a year, you need to have well-produced content on your listings. But your everyday content needs to be just consistent. I mean, it just needs to be you recording your everyday and pulling clips from that and then posting it out. You might have one where you had somebody that was going into foreclosure, that you found a specific way to keep them from going into foreclosure, and you're going to get their house listed. I hear that kind of stuff happening all the time. And they cried on the phone with you, and you found a way to get them out of that situation. That content would play in an insane way. And people just think that like it just takes so much time. No, just throw the webcam on and hit record, because you know you're having a fantastic conversation. I have something right here where when I know the conversation's going well, I tap a button and it gets the transcription of it, you know?
Nice.
And it's just crazy the tools that we have there to be able to feed that into something that I get long form content out of at that point.
There's so much. And like you're saying, it's scanning it and getting through the noise with those pieces that really matter.
Yeah.
And same thing, the reason that we do a lot of our content the way we do, like talks, kind of like not looking directly at the camera. We have like just authentic interviews instead of reading a script. And a lot of times, like when we do interviews, for instance, we'll have an hour-long conversation. We're making a 2-minute video out of it, if not less. But it's to get to those key points, like to get to those life-changing moments, to get those things that are relatable and make you be like, wow, okay, I trust that person. I can visualize either, I want to work with them, or not my cup of tea. Like, people are going to find that out regardless. So why not make that easier for those people to find that and want to work with you?
Yeah. And honestly, like with all of the AI that's coming out, I've mentioned a lot of AI assistant type things, but the reality is with AI, there's going to be this propensity to put out not authentic content. It's just going to be like regurgitated. It's going to be just, that's the only way I can describe it. It's going to be ugh.
Well, and like you're saying, like AI is best used as a tool.
Yeah.
Right. The more we try and push it to try and replace things, the more fake everything's going to get, the more clutter the internet's going to get. We're already at that point, and this is just accelerating that. But it can be such a useful tool. I mean, even for us that makes, like our company that makes videos, we use AI in a lot of different things to help make blog posts, to help cycle stuff, to help, with back end VO assistant, like virtual assistant work. Like, there's so much you can use it for. cut a piece of content, feed it one thing, have it pick out the 10 best mini clips. Great. That could save you like an hour worth of work that it used to take.
Yeah. And you'll still have to go in and like edit, cause it's not perfect, like at least not yet, but like you still have to go, all right, well, like, why did it include these last 3 sentences? Let me chop that off, and so there's a fair amount of stuff where it'll get to you to the place of finding the piece. I mean, dude, whenever I was doing this back in 2018 and we were live streaming and doing some of these things where we were on YouTube Live and Facebook Live or whatever, like the clips were a thing back then, but you had to have an entire team to go and watch your podcast and be like, all right, I'm going to clip those 30 seconds out and I think it'll be viral, that's all something that can be done for you at this point. So if you're looking to do really well-produced content, get with somebody like you to do the well-produced content piece and then use that content to then reciprocate and build other pieces of small like short form content that can ultimately make you more money down the line. Yeah.
One of the biggest things we do is when we're doing this, like a big offering we've started giving people is, okay, we're going to do a big brand message for you and a promotional ad. We'll plan all this stuff out, get all this content. And again, maybe it's a 2 or 3 minute piece. We're not using everything we shot, but we can offer to get all the original clips basically we shot. We'll cut it down, we'll color it for you, give you all those. Great. Now you have a whole batch of other clips that you can use for months or years on out. Just, recycling, put them. There's so many apps that, again, using AI will auto make a video for you. You just feed it a bunch of content. So, okay, one day pick these 5 posts, feed it, let it make something. Next day, pick another 5. So there's so much you can do with it. It's just a little bit of upfront work. And you need to be planning for it and putting money into it. We're talking a lot about like, you can just use your phone. That works for starting out, but like you're talking about for yourself or for us stuff, like at a certain point, you do have to have quality and everything behind it. And I think, if you're starting out, you have time, but not necessarily the money. And that's where you need to put in the time there. And then you start getting some success with it. Well, okay, great. Now maybe you have less time, but you have hopefully some more marketing budget if you were doing things right that you can be spending. And that's an easy way to do one upfront cost, and get some consistent content, or maybe it is consistent depending on your business. So, and that stuff really, it'll get back tenfold sometimes. I mean, I have, no matter which way you do it, like whether you put the money into, okay, I think I'm technical enough, I can get the equipment like you have here and do your own podcast, your own videos. I have a friend that's a Remax agent, and he got a little $600 camera, basically puts in a tripod in his home studio, and he pumps out videos just by himself, and he closed 24 deals.
That's amazing.
Last year from YouTube alone.
Yeah.
I have another client where, nope, she doesn't want to touch the video equipment. She doesn't understand a lot of it. So she just pays me to do all the videos, and we do like once a month on top of some staple pieces. Well, I mean, she's the point now. Some of her videos have 7, 8, 10,000 views. She closed, it was March last year, she closed 6 deals, I believe, just from the videos. Yeah. She'll be walking into restaurants and be like, oh my gosh, I saw you on YouTube. I saw your video about this community. So it's like the stuff works. And yeah, you need to grow the professionalism and the quality and everything to a degree, but there's so many ways to get around that. The main thing is consistency in doing it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the production value of it, but the reality is there are different stages. There are different stages to. All right, well, I started here, and I think a lot of people they forget where they came from. So, hey, I got all this business off of video, and I was putting all this time into it, and I invested, 20 hours a week into creating content. And then I got all this business from it, and now I forgot where I came from, because when it comes to talking to somebody like you, they're like, I'm not going to spend any money towards that. And it's like, well, wait, but wouldn't you want to get those 10 hours back? Yeah. Like, wouldn't you want to get to a place to where you get 10 of your hours back a week or a month or whatever, to have somebody have a plan for you to where you can batch content? Because at some point, once you start putting out enough content, you got to batch it. I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. You get busy with sales. You're closing 10 deals a month. Like, you just get so busy that like you got to set a time, 2-hour block, and then let me just batch content this thing. And so there's always the stepping stones of somebody's business and your maturation in the business. And I just think people lose a little bit of sight of that. Like they start out and it's all just sphere of influence and just doing little granular pieces of content. And then they get big and then they're like, well, I don't have any time to do content. And it's like, wait a second. Content is what got you to where you're at right now. Or cold callings, it maybe not content, but just whatever you're putting time into is what got you to where you are. And then you stop doing it. And then 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever it might be, you go, why has my business dropped off? And it's because you stopped doing the thing that got you there. So whether it's content, whether it's cold calling, whatever, and I've heard you kind of reciprocate that thought process, whatever you put time and energy into, everything works. Literally everything. Mm-hmm. If you put time and energy into mailers or door knocking or cold calling or sitting at a coffee shop and shaking everybody's hand.
Like any of it can work. Like video does help and work with all of it. So it's just a great, easy way to, whether it's high produced or not right away, to just exponentially grow that. But yeah, anything works. And I think that's the biggest thing you see with a lot of agents and mortgage professionals across the country is you have those slopes of like, put in all the marketing work. Okay, wow, I'm getting all this business. Oh, I didn't have time to put in the marketing work. Business drops. And so the only way to do that is planning strategically and again,
time
like
blocking.
Being smart when you're in that high business mode, you're making the dollars, set the money aside to be able to do, pay someone else to do some of the work. You can hire an assistant to do some of it, follow you around with the phone to some of your listing videos, and do some content for you. Have an pay an AI program to like cut up content for you. Like there's things you can be doing to make it so much easier for little money. I mean, we're honestly in the golden age of that, I think is the biggest thing. People really have no excuse. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe it was a little bit different. Not everybody had a phone in their pocket, especially one as good as it is today. Like content was more pressured to be produced because that was like the norm. You want to seem professional if you had the big produced content. Where now we're the opposite, like we've been talking about. Like authenticity is the key, the raw content, you just being you and talking to your clients and showing who you are. So it doesn't have to be perfect right out the gate. It doesn't have to be, done with this big professional video camera. You can start out like everybody's got a camera in their pocket right now that they can be using. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what kind of phone it is, like unless you're rolling a flip phone, like and some of them are like folding screens.
I was gonna say,
like this thing now, like this is a folding screen craziness. But no, I mean, I agree. For whenever I coach my loan officers or I coach real estate agents or whatever, there's really no excuse at this point. Mm-hmm. The only excuse is that you're either too scared or you just don't want to be successful in the content piece of it, and it's something that I resonate with a lot because I try to make an effort to post every day, some sort of long form and then some sort of short form via stories or a reel from the podcast or whatever. So that's something for me that I make an effort to. It's on my calendar. It's a time block. Hey, go edit the podcast, and it's a 20-minute time block. Luckily, we were talking about at the beginning of this, like I have equipment now to where once I stop recording and it goes to this little memory device, like I literally can clip the front and the back of it off, and then I'm posting it and then load, like once it's into YouTube, then I load it into Opus and it clips all the clips. And then now Opus has a feature where I can share the drive of those clips to the guests. So I don't even have to like offload any of that stuff and put it into Google Drive anymore. Like it's crazy how easy it's become. So like there's literally no excuse for people to not be producing some form of content. Agreed. Whether it's video, long form, Instagram photos of yourself and then mixing in your family. Like there's strategy behind it. And that's where people like you and coaching that I give to my agents comes in. Like there's definitely a strategy to doing it the right way. And that's where our expertise comes in. But the not doing it at all thing is insane to me at this point.
Yeah, it's funny because I hear a lot of people, and it's one thing if you're just starting out, you really don't have the capital to do much of anything. But even when it comes to something simple like an occasional social media post that's like well done, if you have a good guest or someone you want to talk to, or it's a listing you're getting from somewhere where you're going to be for sure making money off it as long as you sell it right. It's like I hear the excuse, oh, well, I don't know, I can't afford that right now. How can you afford not to?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I still in this day and age see $1 million listings taken with crooked cell phone pictures with the person's reflection in the bathroom mirror. Most y'all, like, I know what kind of commissions you're making off that, and you're telling me you're just walking around with a phone and it's not showing professionalism. Like, there's again, talking about like there's so much noise, there's so much competition out there. You need to be, there's so many simple things for little dollars you can be doing that makes such a big impact.
Yeah, and you'll get me on a tangent about the professionalism of our local market. I won't go down I won't go down that path because it'll probably get me put on like some hit list or something, because I mean the lack of professionalism in our market is absolute. The Myrtle Beach market, where we're geographically located, is can be pretty insane. I know a lot of great agents. I work with a lot of great agents, but the disparity between like good and bad is like really crazy.
I haven't checked this last year, but I mean, when I got out of real estate, I remember like seeing the facts and seeing, 85% of the business was done by less than 15% of the agents out there.
Yeah.
You're talking, we got 5,000, 6,000 agents in Myrtle Beach, and 4,000 of them aren't doing one or less transaction. Like, not really the kind of person you want to trust doing it. And how do you get out of that is you be a professional.
Yeah.
Like,
and even if you're not going to, like, let's say you're not going to pay for a produced video on your listing or produce photos. That's not an excuse for you not to go on YouTube and go, how can I hold my cell phone in an angle to where I'm not in the picture and it gives me the best results for my listing photos? Like, there's literally no excuse for it. So like the crazy up and down photo of a listing where you're in the mirror and stuff, like, it's literally 5 minutes of your time on YouTube to just go look it up and know that you just need to stand around the back out of the frame of the mirror or whatever and take the photo the right way, So
and again, so much of it's getting so cheap too. I mean, it's not like we're talking about a $5,000 set package for photos and videos for a listing. I mean, we're talking about a few hundred. I mean, most times for around $100, you can get some kind of basic photos for a listing.
Well, and not only that, but it comes down to the sales aspect of it. If I was in the real estate game, I would have no issue being like, hey, we're going to list your property. Here's my statistics behind how quickly I get properties sold. Like, I would have it all in a graph format. One of the packages is that I pay for your photos with all the NAR stuff that's going on. The package that pays for NAR, like that pays for photos, where I incur that cost, is you're going to pay me 3% no matter what. But in the event that we want to negotiate this commission, you're going to pay for your marketing up front.
Exactly.
And then it's not at a cost incurred to that agent. And there's some agents that get their 3% and the marketing paid for up front.
Exactly. So it's all about, again, being professional, knowing how to market, knowing how to talk to your clients and understanding it. And there's also, I mean, I've had brokerages do exclusive deals with us where it's like, okay, we'll use it for us, but the broker will come up and be like, okay, well, we're going to pay for all this stuff up front, and then it'll just come out of their commission in the back end. And if the listing drops off, then they have to pay back. Like, so there's so many ways you can work it to where it doesn't have to be this big upfront cost to get what your client deserves. And it can be the same thing for the mortgage industry for a lot of stuff. I mean, no, you're not doing like listing pictures or anything like that, but like, it's like saying you don't have the right tools to like, or the online, portal or something you're putting money into. You don't have the right tools to get that person the right mortgage. You don't have the right knowledge to, like, you wouldn't go up to someone and try and give them a mortgage if you didn't know what the current mortgage rate was, right?
Yeah.
So you have to know, like you're saying, even if you're using cell phone photos, you have to put the time into knowing and being a professional. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me with the information age that we're in today, just how derelict human beings can be. Like, it's like, wait a second, like, the thing that you literally made it look like that you don't care, which I think the majority of people actually do really care. They're just trying to do what they can do with the hand that they're dealt. I have a general hope for humanity in that sense. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the majority of people do give a shit, and I think that they're just doing what they know how to do. But that's also not an excuse, because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of things out there that would give you the knowledge that you need to if you just Googled how to be the best real estate agent. And there's going to be all of these people that are putting out free content. Same thing with mortgage. Same thing with any sales, solar, roofing, auto, whatever. Like, there's going to be somebody like me or somebody like you that's got a YouTube channel out there that doesn't care about making money off of it, that is going to put free content out there. And you'll have to decide whether or not it's good content. But there's plenty of content out there to be a better professional than you are today. And I consume a lot of it, and I try to make sure that I'm getting better every day. But there's really no excuse for just not being a professional.
Fully agreed. I mean, so many, because I think the knowledge is the biggest thing that we're lacking in industry, both in mortgage and real estate.
Yeah.
And so many, brokers, so many companies, like, they don't offer proper training. I mean, NAR, I don't even think offers the best training as far as what it should. But again, that's not an excuse because there's so many endless resources out there. I mean, before I became an agent, I was binge watching Tom Ferry videos to like learn a lot of the insights in it.
Yeah, he's got a ton of free content out there.
Before
that's outside of his coaching content, you know?
Exactly. Before I got into film, like, I didn't go to film school to learn all this. I started with a basic camera, a lot of YouTube hours, and then trial and error, and trying to always go back, rewatch what I was doing, critique what I was doing, learn from it, go watch more videos on how to do the next thing. And then the equipment and everything came with time, and the clientele and the expertise came with time, but you have to put in that initial work to get there.
Yeah. And that's like, before we said it before, but like, we were tweaking the cameras because I was like, dude, I've done a lot of research on this. I don't know what the heck I'm doing wrong at this point. I need a little bit of help. So there's always going to be people that, as you put yourself out there, there's going to be sphere of influence that pops up that's able to solve a problem for you too. And the more research that you do and the more people that you reach out to, there's so many people in all industries that are just willing to give free advice, that are just happy that somebody's like, hey, I see you as somebody that I view very successful, and I just want to learn from you for a minute. Do you have 30 minutes for me? And the majority of people in both of our industries, whether it be film, whether it be mortgage, real estate, whatever it might be, you're going to find somebody that's like, dude, I'm so glad you called me. Like, this fills my cup up. I'm so glad that I get the moment to invest in you and to have a time where I get to speak life into you because you're having a struggling time. And there's, I think people get too far in their head when they're looking at, like, I want to get better at this, but I can't pay to get better at it. Like, have a little bit more faith in humanity than that. There's a lot of people that will would love to just be on the phone with you for 30 minutes and just invest in you for 30 minutes,
Fully agree. I mean, I think this is an example of that we're doing right now, right? I think I'm probably maybe like the least person you had a rapport with that's been in the podcast so far. But I mean, when Facebook friends for a while and basically hit you up, I was like, I want to learn more about what you're doing and see what knowledge you can provide. And I want to provide some knowledge too. And look where we are, podcasting and just sharing it for not only ourselves, but everybody else to watch. I mean, there's resources out there. People.
What an amazing time to be alive. Like, that's the other thing that whenever I take a step back from life, like, what an amazing time that we are blessed with right now, to where, like, you and I, we would have probably never known each other. We just don't run in the same circles. We're in two different industries, and I can tell that we're going to be great friends from here on out, and like, I'm going to learn a lot from you. I'm going to be able to help you with sales maybe in the future, like whatever. But like, I can tell that we're going to be fast friends. And it's one of those things where when you take a step back from, like, we all deal with ego, and you've heard me talk about this on other episodes. When we take a step back from our ego and we really look at, like, how blessed we are to be able to interact with people that are vastly different than us and get the opportunity to learn from them. And actually, if you'll step back away from your ego, you might actually learn something from them. It's pretty amazing the time that we're in. I mean, I can do virtual podcasts with people out in California, and I get to bend their ear for an hour and just ask them questions and see where they came from and how their life got them to the place that they're at right now. I mean, I've interviewed people with huge followings to small followings, and it's just an amazing time to be alive. It's crazy.
Fully agree. And I think, you're touching one of the most important things too, is like, it takes other people. The most happy, successful people I've met haven't done it themselves.
No.
And both of us, you're not doing it yourself in the mortgage industry. I'm not a single like videographer. Like, same thing. We built teams, we helped create things. We got around other people. Hey, you got something that I am not as good with, you're more proficient at that. Well, let me take my strong suits, match it with your strong suits, and build something better together.
Yeah.
Same thing we're talking about, like any of the rest of this building a team, like building a business. Like you need to have that to bounce back someone else to help you keep accountable. Maybe you're not the best at video, you've never touched it. Maybe you do have a flip phone. Like find someone to be an assistant or to be maybe be a business partner, start a team, join a team for people that have that implement in place already. You can learn and grow from it. So.
Yeah, it is so cool to just see, like, when that light bulb goes off with people where they're like, oh, I had a little bit of success. But a lot of the times when I see that light bulb go off, it's because they got that accountability partner where that's like, hey, me and this person did a video together and it actually played really well. Like now it sparked me to do more videos or more content or more sales or whatever. But I just think that like we're in the golden age. Everybody's so fearful of AI. Like that's something that I get hit with a lot. Everybody's so scared of AI right now. There are people losing jobs right this second because of AI, and there's no getting around that. It's going to happen. But I also think inversely we live in the golden age, because if you will immerse yourself into just being a researchaholic, you can create things that are absolutely insane that could make you millions of dollars in a very short period of time because of the power of AI, whether it be your film business or my mortgage business, just even being able to create the core infrastructure of those two businesses of like, hey, I'm not a very organized person. Like I am, but like in my personal life, I'm not. So I have to use AI sometimes to organize my personal life. Like my wife was telling me this morning, and because of this thing that I have on my wrist, she was telling me our calendar for the next 2 weeks. And it's not because I don't love her. It's just like my brain is so focused on getting into the office and solving this problem that I know is going to be on my desk and all these different things. This little thing was able to take that and make it to where like I know exactly what's happening in my personal life the next 2 weeks. And then I was able to come in here, look at the transcription of it and put it on my calendar. Like that's amazing. Like we live in the most crazy, beautiful time, I think. And if you'll just take the time to slow down to speed up, and this is an email I literally just sent to my team today, is like, slow down, improve your email etiquette so we can speed up in the future. And it's the same thing with anything that we've been talking about. Like sometimes you got to slow down a little bit, do a little bit of research to speed up to ultimately hit some crazy ass goals over the next 2 to 3 years.
Agreed. And it's so possible, like you're saying, with all the different tools and everything we have access to. And AI, I think a lot of people are scared with it, rightfully so, because of the big growth spurt it's had right away. Yeah. But, you know, doing a lot of research on it, talking to people that use a lot of AI, I think the biggest thing is it's not going to take over the world tomorrow. Like we're still going to need jobs. We're still going to need authentic people because it's not doing a good job right that. And it started from 0 to 100 because it had so much to learn from. There's a lot of content out there that all this AI has been trained on. We're starting to get to kind of tipping point where it's running out of things to be trained on, or it's starting to train on other AI things, which may or may not be wrong. Therefore, it's going to kind of plateau out, I think, the next few years until technology catches up. So it doesn't help anybody to just be afraid of it and not want to use it and just think, oh, it's going to take away my job. Like there's AI creating videos right now. I'm not worried about it taking my job.
No.
And even if it could make the same level of content, it can't talk to the person and tell them how to use it the same way. Like it can't listen the same way. It can't have that rapport with someone. You know, most of the time it's not going to be like, actually, you don't need this. You need this. Like, and even if it could, people don't want that.
No, no. I mean, and we talked about that, I think, before we got on, is like, my kids' generation, I feel like is going to be very equipped to sniff that out. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be able to get on the phone, whether it's super linguistic and can move through a conversation. I think they'll be able to be like, yeah, I'm not talking to a person right now, no matter how good it gets. I think at some point, we are intelligent beings enough to go, all right, I'm being like, because we can see that if let's say we're sitting down across from each other and I'm trying to sell you on something, I feel like I'm pretty smart. I feel like we rap back and forth really well together. But at some point, you're going to be able to sniff my bullshit. And I think that at some point, that even if AI gets on the same level with us to where whenever you talk to it, it immediately responds to you the same way a human would, we're still going to be able to sniff out the BS meter and be like, there's something off about this person, you know, like, is this AI? Like this feels very icky, you know? Yeah. And I think that the more that people interact with it, the long term, no matter how fast it advances, at some point we'll be able to go, this feels icky. This is definitely AI. I don't no. And I think my generation and the generations that come after my generation, we don't know how to balance a checkbook. We don't know how, like, not that you're going to have to balance a checkbook, but we don't know how to do a lot of financial things. We don't know the first part of trying to buy a car or trying to buy a house. So like a lot of my generation doesn't. And the generations after me are definitely not going to know how to do it because their parents are going to be me.
Yeah.
You know, and luckily I was blessed to have good parents that taught me how to do these things. But I just feel like there's going to be just this whole generation that's able to sniff through it. Now, the auto manufacturing business, will there be robots that build all the cars? 100% there will. Like the auto factory job is going to go away. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The trucking industry, that's going to go away. So like if you're in any of those industries, like you should really look at your exit over the next decade because it's going to happen to you whether you like it or not. But for our industries, there's going to be things that take over. I just don't think that there's going to be full replacements in that sense.
Agreed. And I think even the people in those industries, like it's all about, you need to push away the fear for a minute and figure out how to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a trucker, maybe that, these self-driving trucks are going to come in and take care of that. Well, great. Well, maybe you can start a business doing like the back end for that and helping promote, helping get that out there, helping figure out what company's helping, maybe work with someone and find a partner that can help you build a software that's going to create that telecommunication between the trucks or something. Like there are so many aspects where you can take still knowledge in those fields and then turn them into something using AI to then make even more money.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm completely creating a CRM, a client relationship management system completely with AI. Like I know how to code. I'm not going to sit there and write the code for the whole thing because I don't know how to do all of it, and the API integrations and all the craziness that comes from it. But I've got Bolt.new that's creating the basic UI of it. And then I have another, through Claude, I have another one that's like checking the Bolt.new coding. And it's literally just creating the CRM right now. And it's the most amazing thing. And at some point, once it's beta launched and if it actually works, like I'll make money from this thing. And it'll probably be a 7-figure business a year, if not a month, in the mortgage business because it's coming from somebody that's making it that understands the nitty gritty of how to get a loan closed, you know? And that's what I think people lose sight of. Like if you're that person that's an auto worker and AI is starting to take over and robots are starting to take over, well, you need to figure out how to become the best prompt engineer that you can to make sure that you're working on those robots that are ultimately building the car, or you're the logistics person on the trucking side that is, like you said, coming up with, all right, well, just because they drive themselves doesn't mean the logistics of Walmart getting goods to here and Best Buy getting goods to here, like all of that stuff happens. Like they're just like that mechanism is just driving it. Like there's going to be other mechanisms that tell it where to go and all these different things. So yeah, man, I think that I think there's always going to be opportunity no matter what jobs end up in arbitrage. There's always going to be
opportunity. There's more that come up from it. Exactly. People have been scared of any kind of new technology that's come up, think it's going to be lose jobs for thousands of years now. And every time it does, by the time 50, 100 years pass and that thing's fully ready and fully integrated, well, guess what? It's already made 10,000 more jobs.
Well, look at the content game too. Like to kind of finish that thought is like all of the news industries probably 5 to 7 years ago started getting worried about the podcast guys. And they started getting really worried about paid subscriptions, Netflix and all these different avenues. And the good ones have pivoted and bought some of the podcast guys and put them on their network that are now paid subscriptions. So it's again, like even the legacy media stuff understands that there's opportunity. You just have to, you either have to roll with the punches or you have to buy it. You have to buy your opportunity or roll with the punches and create opportunity. And I think that goes tenfold with my business. It goes into your business about creating content. There's always opportunity there. And if you will listen to somebody like Michael and invest into his content and reach out to him and get coaching from him, you're going to get results from it if you put energy into it. There's going to be some people that just don't do the camera thing and they're just not going to do it. But just because 963 doesn't film content for you doesn't mean that like they can't provide value to you. And inversely on my side, just because I don't give you a mortgage doesn't mean I can't review a loan estimate for you and go, hey, you're actually getting a good deal here. That's not something that I'm going to try to derail your transaction over. Go get your good deal, you know, and it's the same thing. And I can tell that you're cut from that cloth where you're like, hey, I actually can't help you in this moment other than like giving you some free advice, you know? And then once you're ready for me, then I'll be here for you, you know, and that's really cool to see. I can tell that about you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in the end, it makes it better for everybody. If we're just trying to, like you've talked about before in the podcast with other episodes, like if you're just trying to sell something, you're only going to get so far. Maybe you'll hit some numbers, but you're not going to, you know, you're not going to really be adding value in a way that means anything. And there's so much business out there. There's so many people out there needing videos, needing photography, needing mortgages, needing a house. Like that stuff's not going to change. So like the pool's going to be there regardless. So if we make it a better experience for everyone and just share knowledge, like it'll come back and we'll be more than busy enough.
Yeah. So to finish out, we usually keep this to an hour, which is where we're at now. But I think the thing that both of us have talked about is when you're authentic and you bring a high give a shit factor. I think that it will lead to immensely more business than being very transactional, and making sure that you're an authentic human in any of these interactions that you have. And I can tell that from y'all's content because it is very interview style and not head on of like, hey, I'm a influencer, you know, and listen to me. No, it's like people being super authentic and real. So to finish out, how do people get a hold of you? Like, what are your social media handles? That way we can have that on there. And then one last piece of advice when it comes to what your expertise is with business. What's one last piece of advice you can give to somebody to starting their content journey, I guess?
Okay. Yeah. So just pretty simple. We're 963 Film Group. I think I talked to you a little bit before the show. Going to be working on hopefully making a real estate specific branch. So I'm working on naming and branding for that. But for now, 963filmgroup.com. Same thing, 963 Film Group, Instagram, Facebook, all those different things. You can find us, reach out. You know, one of us, or if not, just ask right for me. We could probably put some of that in the description below the video here for you guys. But yeah, I mean, reach out again, even if you don't think you can afford it, like ask me a question. I'm more than glad to help. And I'd rather have, you know, that rapport with you and work with people. So maybe 5 years from now, when you already use me, like great. You know, I just want to see the industry get better as a whole with it. So that's it. As far as like the content, as far as just one piece of advice, I mean, again, just get started. I think we talked in that, just get started today. Like find a time like this week. If you haven't made content before, record something. Even if you're don't think you're going to post it right away, record something. You can't get anywhere unless you just start.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's great advice. You're definitely never going to get anywhere if you don't take that first step. And it doesn't always have to be the first step off the cliff. You're not always jumping off of a cliff. Sometimes you're just walking down the damn hallway and it's okay, you know? So thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you. I know we didn't know each other super well before this, but I'm glad that we made this happen because I think there's a lot of great content that's come from this. If you are somebody that is struggling with content or any of those kind of things, please reach out to Michael, reach out to myself. We're both cut from the same cloth. I can totally tell that, hey, we're just going to give you some advice. And if there's an opportunity there to like kind of take you to the next level, I'm going to refer you over to Michael or he's going to give you that advice. And ultimately, the first step is just taking that step. And outside of content, if you're struggling in life and you're having a situation to where you just feel stuck, reach out. Like I'm happy to be that sounding board for you and give you sound advice in taking that next step to get you unstuck. And then again, every time that you guys share this or you listen to the podcast, it's going to get us that much closer to launching the Live Legendary Foundation, which will ultimately impact a lot of children in the future and is a huge passion project for me because I experienced some of that turmoil as a young kid. Some of you guys know my story, but ultimately we're going to fight for at-risk kids when it comes to sex trafficking, and then ultimately just being in the wrong environment and then trying to get them out of that environment or get them the resources that they need to make sure that they can live legendary later in their life and ultimately take their life to the next level. So that's what the Live Legendary Foundation is going to be about. And you listening to the podcast and sharing the podcast is ultimately going to make it to where Live Legendary can become a real thing. So thank you so much, guys, and reach out if you need anything. This was episode 6, and I hope you guys have an awesome week. Thanks so much.